Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're embarking on really a fascinating journey back through the centuries. We're going to a period in art history that wasn't just groundbreaking, it fundamentally reshaped how artists saw and depicted the world around them. We're talking about a movement born from, believe it or not, a revolutionary invention and fueled by this almost unbelievable attention to detail. It was a whole changing world. Our mission today really is to unpack the significance of this particular artistic movement. People often call it the Flemish School. It dared to break from these really long-standing traditions and, well, it ushered in what a lot of art historians consider a great artistic revolution. It's a genuinely eye-opening exploration into how art became this mirror, reflecting not just the divine, but the vibrant, intricate reality of human life. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's really set the scene properly. We're discussing the Flemish artistic movement. It was a powerhouse of creativity that truly flourished from, say, the early 15th century right through into the 17th century. Quite a span. Now, when we say Flemish, we're pinpointing its geographical roots in the Flanders region. This historical area, back in its prime, covered parts of what we now know as northern Belgium, the Netherlands, and yeah, even a slice of France. What was it about this specific place at that specific time that made it such fertile ground for, well, such a radical change in art?
It's fascinating, isn't it? What's really key here is just how significant a departure the school represented. I mean, for centuries, art, especially from traditions like the Byzantines or even the early Florentine Renaissance, was almost exclusively focused on these grand, often quite abstract religious themes. Think soaring altarpieces, stylized saints, these divine narratives that, well, they spoke to the soul, perhaps, but maybe less to the eye for everyday reality. The Byzantine tradition, for example, it really emphasized iconic symbolic representations, often with flattened forms. And while early Florentine art was moving towards naturalism, it still really prioritized idealized human forms and these grand narrative compositions, often, commissioned by the church or powerful families for public display. But the Flemish artists, they turned their gaze quite emphatically earthward, towards the world, right there in front of them. And this wasn't just like a stylistic whim. It was deeply connected to the whole socioeconomic situation in Flanders. This region was a buzzing hub of trade, commerce, and burgeoning wealth, especially among the merchant class, a new group of patrons, essentially.
Ah, right. So new money, new demands.
Exactly. These new patrons, quite different from the traditional church or aristocracy, they wanted art that reflected their lives, their prosperity, their tangible world. So the Flemish focus shifted. It moved towards depicting everyday people, merchants, bankers, their wives, and the intricate furniture in their homes, the luxurious fabrics of their clothing, even humble household objects, but all rendered with just astonishing precision. It was this profound pivot, really, from the divine and the monumental to the domestic, the personal, and this incredibly detailed documentation of a flourishing secular life.
That makes a lot of sense. So you've got this new class of patrons wanting different subject matter reflected back at them. But what truly unlocked this new way of seeing and representing the world? Was there like a technological breakthrough that made this incredible level of detail even possible? Because honestly, looking at some of these paintings, it's almost hard to believe they were done with just paint and a brush.
Yes, absolutely. You've hit on the really pivotal point there. This monumental shift in both subject matter and precision was largely enabled by an equally revolutionary invention, oil paint.
Air paints.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
And we really owe this groundbreaking discovery, or at least its popularization and mastery, to two absolute titans of the Flemish school, the famous brothers Hubert and Jan van Eyck. Before them, artists mainly used tempera, which is a water-based paint. It dried really quickly and offered pretty limited blending capabilities. It's genuinely hard to overstate why oil paints were such a game changer. Imagine trying to capture, say, the subtle blush on a cheek or the sheen on a silk gown with a medium that dries almost the second you put it down.
Impossible, almost.
Pretty much. Oil paints, though, offered this incredible versatility. First, they allowed for far greater realism and this amazing sense of depth. You could build up layers upon layers, create shadows that truly seemed to recede, and highlights that genuinely gleamed. It meant a landscape could feel like you could almost walk right into it, or a face could look like it really had skin and bone beneath, with light playing across all the contours. Second, and this is crucial, their slower drying time was a revelation.
Slower drawing. You'd think that might be a problem.
But it wasn't a hindrance. It was a blessing. It gave artists immense flexibility. They could achieve much smoother, more nuanced color blending and gradients. They could transition from light to dark, or one color to another, with this incredible subtlety that tempera just couldn't manage. This also allowed for techniques like glazing, applying thin, transparent layers of color over dried paint. This created an astonishing luminosity, a depth that made colors seem to glow from within. And conversely, they could also build up impasto, thick, textured layers of paint that gave surfaces a tangible, almost sculptural quality. And of course, this extended working time meant artists could make incredibly precise adjustments, layer upon layer, refining their work over days, even weeks. This enabled an unprecedented level of detail that was simply impossible before. So this technical innovation, combined with the new patronage we talked about, had this profound, direct impact on the subject matter itself. Its newfound ability to render reality with such, well, astonishing precision meant Flemish artists could truly excel at depicting people. Intricate furniture, fashionable clothing, all with almost photographic accuracy. Their paintings became more than just art. They became invaluable historical documents. They give us incredible insights into the styles, the forms, the daily lives of the period, almost like a 15th century photograph, really.
That level of control must have completely changed how an artist even approached the canvas. It sounds like this painstaking dedication to visual truth. And when we talk about this meticulous detail, we absolutely have to talk about Jan van Eyck. He's widely seen as a foundational figure, isn't he? The driving force behind what's known as the reporting path in art. What exactly did that reporting path mean, and how did Van Eyck really exemplify it?
The reporting path, well, it's kind of exactly what it sounds like, but executed with this almost obsessive precision. It's an artistic approach characterized by an extremely high level of observational accuracy and the inclusion of every single minute detail, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant.
It's like a visual report.
Exactly. Think of it as almost scientific observation, but rendered with an artist's hand. It wasn't about idealizing or simplifying things. It was about capturing the world exactly as it appeared to the eye. And Jan van Eyck was arguably its greatest master. If you really want to grasp this concept, you just have to picture his most famous work, the Arnolfini portrait. It's now a huge draw at the National Gallery in London. Let's really try and immerse ourselves in this painting for a moment. Imagine the incredible precision. You see the impossibly detailed depiction of the couple's clothing, the rich, textured fabrics of Giovanni Arnolfini's fur-lined overcoat, his wife Giovanna Chiami's elaborate green gown. Every fold, every stitch feels like it's there, almost tactile.
You can almost feel the weight of the fabric.
Precisely. And look at the intricate forms of the furniture in the room. The brass chandelier, the worn wooden floorboards, even the oranges on the windowsill, the little dog at their feet. Every single element is rendered with this hyper-realistic clarity. But then there's the truly astonishing detail. The tiny convex mirror in the background.
Ah, yes.
Well, it's not just a reflective surface, it's like a portal. This mirror reflects not just the scene in front of the backs of the Arnolfinis, but also with breathtaking, almost unbelievable accuracy for a 15th century painting. It shows two other figures entering the room.
Whoa.
And one of these figures is widely believed to be Van Eyck himself. He even signed his name right above the mirror, almost like graffiti. Jan van Eyck was here, 1434.
Incredible.
This tiny detail alone just exemplifies his mastery and his commitment to documenting reality, even his own presence. It's like an assertion of the artist as this meticulous observer, a reporter of the visible world.
As you think about that incredible level of detail, what really stands out to you listening, it's just mind-boggling, isn't it? Centuries before cameras even existed, these artists were creating images with a photographic-like precision that can still make us gasp today. It's a moment that really makes you appreciate the dedication, the almost scientific rigor involved. So with Van Eyck setting such an incredibly high bar for detail, how did other artists build on this? Did this reporting path continue with other artists in the Flemish school, or was he kind of a one-off genius?
Oh, far from an anomaly. This tradition of meticulous detail became a real hallmark of the Flemish school, and it definitely continued to evolve with other prominent artists. One such figure who really stands out is Quentin Matsys. He picked up the mantle of this highly detailed approach, though perhaps with his own subtle shifts in emphasis, maybe a bit more narrative focus. One of his most notable works, and another fantastic example of this precision, is The Moneylender and His Wife. In this painting, you see a moneylender intently counting coins, his wife seated beside him, supposedly reading a prayer book. Well, her gaze is actually drawn not to the sacred text, but to the glittering pile of coins her husband is handling. There's a story there.
Yeah.
And every element is rendered with that same incredible precision. The individual coins, the worn pages of the book, the tools on the table. And just like Van Eyck's masterpiece, Matsy's includes a small circular convex mirror in the painting's background.
Another mirror.
Yes. With startling accuracy, this mirror reflects the window opposite and the view beyond it, capturing light and landscape with astonishing realism. It even shows a figure looking into the room, much like Van Eyck's. Matsy's also started exploring more moralistic themes in his work, using this detail to highlight maybe human folly or societal shifts. For instance, in his painting The Ill-Matched Lovers, he portrays an old man being basically swindled by a young woman, using the fine details of their expressions and gestures to really convey the narrative's irony. It's also interesting to note that Matsy's death around 1530 is often seen as marking the end of that initial, really distinct phase of the Flemish school. This was a period that remained quite separate, quite insulated from the burgeoning influences of traditional Italian Renaissance art. It really maintained its unique focus on this intense realism and everyday detail.
Okay, so the torch of precision was definitely passed on, but the early Flemish school largely kept its unique identity, deliberately separate from those Italian influences. Yet art is rarely static, is it? How did the Flemish style continue to evolve? Did it eventually engage with those very Italian grandeur ideals?
That's exactly where Peter Paul Rubens enters the picture. A later, but equally significant master who truly expanded the reach and influence of the Flemish style in, well, monumental ways.
Rubens, right, a huge name.
Huge. And Rubens' unique contribution was his incredible ability to seamlessly blend that realistic and detailed Flemish reporting style we've been discussing with the grand, idealized forms and dramatic compositions of Italian Renaissance and later Baroque art. This fusion really cemented his legacy and created something entirely new and powerful. His journey to Italy in 1600 was absolutely crucial to this development. He spent 8 really formative years there. He was profoundly influenced by the masters of the Renaissance like Michelangelo and Raphael, absorbing their classical ideals of the human form, their monumental compositions, and also the dramatic flair of the emerging Baroque style, people like Caravaggio.
So he's soaking it all in.
Completely.
Yeah.
Imagine, for instance, the muscular, idealized figures of Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, combined with the rich textures and tangible realism of a Van Eyck portrait. Rubens effectively brought those two worlds crashing together.
And when Rubens came back to his homeland in 1608, he established himself not just as an artist, but as a real force. He opened his own large workshop, often called a salon because it attracted so many students and assistants, almost like an art factory or academy. And he really began to produce this vast array of works. He got into historical painting, scenes inspired by mythology, and he was particularly renowned as the painter of princes.
Very much so.
He depicted countless nobles and monarchs of his era, giving us these incredible portraits of figures like Louis III, Marie de Medici, the Queen of France, no less, and Charles I of England. You see that in his painting Peace and War, finished after 1630. His output was just prolific, politically influential, and artistically groundbreaking.
Indeed. And if you look at some of his famous mythological works, like The Judgment of Paris or The Garden of Love, you truly see how Rubens successfully combined that Renaissance ideal of depicting the human form with the dynamic, sensual realism that was so characteristic of Flemish art. His figures, while they might be classical in their proportions, they're imbued with this vibrant energy, a palpable sense of movement, and those rich, naturalistic flesh tones and textures that really hark back to Flemish precision.
So not just idealized, but alive.
Exactly. He brought a lushness, a vibrancy, and this theatrical grandeur to the idealized classical figures. He didn't just paint a scene. He captured a moment of heightened emotion and drama. And when we try and connect this to the bigger picture, Rubens really demonstrated the incredible adaptability and the evolving nature of the Flemish artistic legacy. It wasn't some static movement just confined to hyperreal detail. It was one capable of absorbing new influences, expanding its own expressive power, and ultimately becoming a dominant force in European art during the whole Baroque period. His work showed that realism could absolutely coexist with grandeur, and that Northern European innovation could stand shoulder to shoulder with Italian classical ideals.
Wow. What an incredible journey we've taken through the Flemish school today. From its groundbreaking invention of oil paints and the emergence of this new merchant class wanting to see their lives in art, to its mastery of realistic detail by figures like Jan van Eyck and Quentin Matsy's, and then its eventual powerful fusion with grander artistic ideals by Peter Paul Rubens, it's such a testament to how innovation, coupled with a changing society, can completely reshape an entire art form.
And this really raises an important question for you, the listeners, as we wrap up this deep dive. What does the story of the Flemish school teach us about the enduring power of observation, and the human desire to capture reality, even centuries before photography was even dreamed of? And thinking about today, what contemporary art forms, or maybe even media like hyper-realistic video games or CGI in film, what do you think continues this tradition of meticulous detail and a focus on rendering reality with such astonishing precision? Where do you see that reporting path continuing now?
That's a really fascinating thought, isn't it? To consider how these centuries-old artistic principles echo and evolve even in our hyper-connected modern world. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the Flemish School. We hope you feel a little more well-informed, maybe a little more inspired, and perhaps even eager to seek out some of these masterpieces for yourself. Until next time, keep exploring the incredible world of art and knowledge.